The observation deck hummed with tension as Drax stood motionless, his obsidian scales catching the pale light of the station's artificial sun. His kind, the Krathiks, had ruled their sector of space for millennia, apex predators whose very name meant death's shadow in 17 languages. Yet here he stood, watching a fragile human tend to his spawn through reinforced glass that could withstand a plasma cannon. Lyra moved through the nursery with practiced ease, her small frame dwarfed by the enormous gestation pods lining the walls. Each pod contained a Krathik's infant, their underdeveloped claws already sharp enough to pierce steel. She hummed softly, a peculiar human habit, as she checked vital signs and adjusted nutrient flows. Drax's secondary eyes tracked her every movement, searching for the fear that should be there. It wasn't. "She's remarkable," came a voice beside him. Commander Thex, his second-in-command, had arrived without announcement. 3 cycles now and not a single incident. "We lost 4 Krathik's caretakers in the first month," Drax rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "They were trained warriors bonded to our young through blood ritual. Yet they failed." Inside the nursery, one of the pods began flashing crimson. Alarm protocols should have sealed the room and summoned armed guards. Instead, Lyra simply walked over and placed her bare hand against the pod's surface. Through the communication system, Drax heard her voice soft and melodic. "Hey there, little one. Having a bad dream?" The infant Krathix inside thrashed, its emerging consciousness caught in what their species called the First Rage, a primal fury that had killed more than one careless handler. Its claws scraped against the interior of the pod, seeking something to destroy. Lyra didn't flinch. She began to sing. The sound was like nothing Drax had encountered in 40 years of conquest and exploration. Not a war hymn or territorial challenge, but something else entirely. Gentle, repetitive, soothing. The melody wrapped around the infant's consciousness like a warm blanket. Slowly, impossibly, the thrashing stopped. "What is she doing?" Thex breathed. "I don't know," Drax admitted, and the confession cost him. Krathik's leaders knew everything about their domain. It was what made them apex. The infant in the pod settled, its vital signs stabilizing. Lyra kept singing for another minute before moving on to the next pod, checking readings as if she hadn't just accomplished something no Krathiks could. "Request permission to speak plainly." "Commander," Thex said. Drax nodded once. "The humans should be prey. They're weak. Their worlds have no natural defenses. They lack venom, armored hide, even basic thermal regulation. By every measure, they should have been consumed by their own planet's predators before achieving sentience. Yet they persist," Drax finished. "And now they tend our young better than we can." It was a truth that burned in his throat. When the Galactic Council had suggested human caretakers for endangered species nurseries, the Krathiks had laughed. Some had proposed eating the human diplomats for their audacity. But the data was undeniable. Wherever humans served as caretakers, infant survival rates increased by orders of magnitude. Not just for docile herbivores, but for apex predators like themselves. Drax had demanded to oversee Lyra personally, certain he would discover the trick, the technology, the hidden advantage. 3 cycles later, he was no closer to understanding. The door to the observation deck opened and Lyra emerged, wiping her hands on her uniform. She looked up at Drax without the slightest hint of intimidation, though he stood 3 times her height. "Good morning, Commander Drax," she said cheerfully. "Your younglings are doing wonderfully. Number 7 is ready to begin neural stimulation exercises." "How?" The word escaped before Drax could contain it. "How do you calm them when they rage? Our own kind cannot achieve this without sedation." Lyra tilted her head, considering. "Would you like me to show you?" Minutes later, Drax found himself in the nursery, standing before Pod 7 as its occupant began another episode. His own offspring, the one that would someday lead their clan. The infant sensed his presence and became more agitated, responding to the predatory instinct in Drax's very essence. "Your first instinct is to dominate," Lyra said softly beside him, "to establish hierarchy. It's natural for your species. But they're infants, they don't need a superior. They need safety. We provide safety through strength. You provide survival through strength," Lyra corrected gently. "Safety is different, watch." She placed both hands on the pod and began to hum again. But this time, Drax felt something beneath the sound, a rhythm that matched the infant's racing heartbeat. then gradually slowed. Lyra was synchronizing with the youngling, matching its panic, then leading it down to calm. On Earth, we evolved alongside predators that could kill us with single blows. Lyra explained, never breaking her rhythm. We couldn't outrun them or outfight them. So we learned something else. We learned to understand them, to read their emotions, anticipate their needs. We survived by caring for things that should have eaten us. Drax watched his offspring relax under her touch. Your weakness became strength. Our empathy became strength, Lyra said. Every species in the galaxy has something they excel at. The Krathiks have power, discipline, tactical brilliance. But humans? We excel at caring for things that aren't like us, even things that could destroy us. The infant Krathik settled completely, its dream state returning to peaceful patterns. Drax felt something unfamiliar in his chest, not the burn of shame, but the warmth of gratitude. The Council wants to expand the program, he said finally. Human caretakers for 17 more species. I know, Lyra smiled. I'm training the next group. Would you like to help? Your young would benefit from learning both approaches, Krathik strength and human compassion. Drax looked down at the small human who had accomplished what warriors could not. In the vast galaxy of predator and prey, perhaps the humans had discovered a third path entirely. Yes, he said, teach us. As Lyra beamed up at him, Drax understood at last why even apex predators entrusted humans with their young. It wasn't despite human fragility, it was because of it. Only a species that had survived being prey could truly understand how to nurture the predators. In their weakness, humans had found their greatest strength,